Bases dropped on a new round of SDH AM. John, hear you there. We would like to welcome those of you that just finished watching the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. 18 innings finished around 3 o'clock this morning. And if you are turning around and you are catching up with us, you are an absolute diehard, and we love you for it. As an Angels fan, I cannot root for the team that is north on the I-5. I cannot do that. So as a default, for all of our friends north of the border, you have my full and total support. And I'm hoping that there are pitching arms that will absolutely be available for everybody tonight in game number 4 at Dodger Stadium. So, John, hear you there. Here's what we're going to do this morning here on SDH AM. It is KCD. We find out where she be. We're going to go over everything college soccer, MLS playoffs. I want to get into the art of the PK a little bit because we have seen a lot of posts. We've seen a lot of misses. And I want to kind of get into that with KCD when she comes up in about 8 minutes. And we'll break down everything that we've seen so far. We're getting closer to conference championships. Regular seasons are winding down in the state of Georgia. If you missed it, Red Clay Soccer Report, powered by our friends at NoFo Brewing, has the rundown of about 8 different conferences. You've got highlights from about 4. And you're getting ready for the end of conference play. SoCon and the Fun Belt, I believe, start this weekend. You'll hear a familiar voice. Jason is going to be doing stuff at Mercer. He's going to be doing stuff in New Orleans. And so if you want to listen to that, you can do that this weekend as well. So getting ready for college championship, conference championship activity in college. We'll catch up with KCD about that. MLS Cup playoffs. We've got highlights from last night. We've got the continuing situation at Celtic to get into. Martin O'Neill had an interview with Jim White over at TalkSport. The gentleman who is the highest, most public shareholder of Celtic went public, and he took the bus he was driving, went over went over Brendan Rodgers, went back because he thought he missed something, then went back again just to make sure that he didn't miss anything the third time through. We'll have those quotes coming up as well. At 10:30, our buddy Jason Stevens is back after being on the shelf for a little bit. We do talk MCOs. We do talk about John Textor. We talk about the influence of the mafia. We have mafia notes that we have to get into, especially Serie B, Serie C. Matt, it was Montenegro, and where was the fourth one? It's Far East. So we've got that. So that'll be Jason Stevens coming up at 10:30, and then we'll get you into everything you need to know, getting you ready for your day, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. We've got to preview Charlotte and NYCFC. If you missed our conversation with Will Pelagic late last week, you can go back and listen to that on your favorite podcatcher. But remember, no Will Saha for Charlotte, and it will be intriguing to see how Charlotte approaches it. Confident, I'm sure they are defensively. And then, obviously, when you have Kerwin Vargas and Idan Toklamadi, you're probably looking at those as your main options in the matchup tonight. Like I said, we'll go over what happened last night. We'll go over what's going to happen today, and we'll break it all down for you as we go. Plus, anything else on your mind? We did have some more stuff happen in Major League Soccer. Of course, after we went off the air yesterday, there is now another coaching vacancy in Colorado. Chris Armas's contract was not renewed. And you also saw Luis Muzzi. His tenure with the Purple Team has come to an end after 7 years. So that was announced yesterday. We'll get into all of that machinations after KCD comes and visits in just a little bit. So that's the deal. Whatever else is on your mind as well. MLS past and present. MLS last night. MLS today. All of the news and notes. All the shifting. Celtics mad at folks. And they're bringing in Martin O'Neill, and then it is going to be an interim of interim things. It is not going to be something where he's going to come and stay and be given the gig. We do have the juice boxes that are laid out for Celtic and their new manager, and the guy in the clubhouse is an old manager right now as the leader in the clubhouse to take the gig. We'll go over those as well. So that's what we've got here this morning. It's going to be Kacey D and Jason Stevens, plus all the news and notes, Major League Soccer, getting you ready for everything, college soccer, all the in-betweens and all that stuff. So here's the rundown once again for the remainder of the week. Tomorrow, the press conference involving Chris Henderson is going to be at 9:30. So what we're going to do is Maddie and Jason are going to be there. Leading into the 9:30, I'm anticipating that the two of them will be batting leadoff for us from the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. We'll kind of get into the conversation, what we think is going to be happening, what you're looking to have Chris Henderson address. Then we will bail into our normal coverage. We'll keep an ear out for what's going on at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. At about 10:30, we anticipate everything being clear. And then once everything is clear and Maddie and Jason are set up to go, then we will kind of do a donut. We'll have them come back in and analyze what Chris Henderson said during the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground interview press conference opportunity. So tomorrow it's going to be kind of dipping in and out, in and around what's going on with Atlanta United. So Maddie and Jason coming on before the 9:30 press conference with Chris Henderson. Once everything settles at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground tomorrow, they'll come back and analyze what was discussed and questions and stuff like that. So it's going to be Maddie and Jason at the beginning, Maddie and Jason at the end, and we'll see if we can break down anything else that happened in Major League Soccer. Obviously, we'll have Charlotte and NYCFC to look at, but the big story tomorrow will be what's going on at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground before and after 9:30. Maddie and Jason hopefully will be joining us with cell signals and Wi-Fi that will function in a better manner than I can traditionally do it. So that's what's going to happen tomorrow, and we'll see if we can get the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, to join us at 10 o'clock, leading into what's going on in the postmortem there. So that's what it's going to be looking like tomorrow. Max Anderson, the play-by-play voice of Chicago Fire, is going to be joining us batting leadoff on Thursday, and we'll see if we can track down more folks. We've sent out the bat signal for a couple of folks to see if they can come and visit. Then obviously Nino and Nico are going to be dropping by at 10 and 10:30 on Thursday. Then we'll see if we can catch up with our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring, our friends from Major League Soccer joining us at 10 o'clock, getting you ready for the weekend. Obviously, if we can catch up with Will Pelagic and Charlotte, Lucas Panzica might be batting leadoff on Friday to discuss game number 2 in the Nashville Messi and Friends series. And we are going to put out some more feelers and let you know what's going on there. So that's kind of the rundown that we have for the week. And it will be intriguing tomorrow morning to hear what Chris Henderson has to say about the 25 season with Atlanta United and looking into the 26 season, because remember, you have probably from now, 2 months get you to the 28th of December. So you probably have 10 weeks, maybe 11, to kind of get everything squared away and get ready for training camp and all these kinds of things. And so it'll be interesting to see what these next 11 weeks are going to look like, obviously, for Atlanta United and such. But it will be Chris Henderson kind of batting leadoff for that 11-week period, that 12-week period tomorrow at 9:30. We'll have before and after here on SDH AM. Okay, it is time. It is actually, let me filibuster for another 30 seconds or so. Like I said, we've got all of the news that's going on overseas. We do have some other stuff that we can get into, the what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Dr. D with a question before we bring in Kacey D. So let's see. Morning Pars, morning Dr. D, morning David. Dr. D wants to know about Tata being the alleged front runner for returning to be Atlanta United manager, according to The Athletic. What we have discussed, I mean, you have Tata on the list. I've seen Gio Savarese on the list. And I think remember Diario Olay, I want to say like 6 weeks ago, had a verbal in place with Tata and LAFC. It would not surprise me. Like I said, I think the only thing missing in the Tata Martino discussion is Jimmy Sexton. And we all know what Jimmy Sexton does for college football coaches in and around the planet. He drives up interest and drives up, are you sure you want to keep him? and you're driving up the financials that are attached as well. So I think that when you're looking at Tata, I think that you have to keep an eye out for LAFC, considering what Diario Ole said about 6 weeks ago. And what does Tata want? What does Tata want? Does Tata want to come back to a situation where he's building, or does Tata want to chase after another MLS Cup immediately? That would be my first question. And I think that right now, unless you go worst to first or something like that, and everything falls into place and you have a harmonic convergence and everything goes for Atlanta United and they get all the pieces together and everything fits like an amazing 500-piece jigsaw puzzle that you have on the glass table in your den, I think LAFC is closer to winning a championship this year and next than Atlanta United is next year. So what does Tata Martino want? Does he want to build? Or does he want to, chase after another championship involving Yeonmin Son, Denny Bouanga, et cetera? That would be my first question for Tata Martino and his representation. Then, if Tata wants to stay here and build, then it's only going to be 2, maybe 3 years, a very Bielsa-like time window. So then I think what you have to do is you instantly have to prepare for a successor if Tata Martino comes by, because this is not going to be a long-term thing for Tata Martino. It's not going to be 5-6 years. It's not going to be that. So you have to succession plan immediately. Do you bring in someone as the 2 who is the coach in waiting? That would be my thought in all of this. So what does Tata want? Does he want to build? Does he want a title? If he wants to build and come back here, then you've got to think about that next step almost immediately with him coming in. So, Gio Savarese for me would be top of my list. Jason had Gio as one of his 11 coming in. So that would be my thoughts on all of this. Okay. I've dilly-dallied, and we now know that Owen has been satisfied with a morning walk and that he's good to go. We bring in KCD and find out what's going on in KCD's universe. KCD, where you be?
Oh, home with my coffee.
See, there you go.
My dog, how are you?
It's another Tuesday, and it's time to catch up with you. You have your Tar Heel blue mug ready to go with your warmed beverage, I imagine.
I do.
I know that there are a couple of things I want to get into. I want to get into college conference play and just kind of the lay of the land as we get ready for conference playoffs and getting ready for the postseason tournament and things like that. I know that we've got to get into Major League Soccer. We do have highlights from last night that we can get into with the 2 matches that were played. But what I want to do first is ask you about Major League Soccer with the playoff matchups that we have seen and the results that we've gotten. Has anything surprised you in the postseason so far when it comes to Major League Soccer? All of the home teams have won. It has been fairly chalky when it comes to not the taste of it, but the actual lowdown of everything. Last night, we'll get into that coming up in a sec. But in the playoffs, you get past the wild card round, and you have Messi and friends winning at home against Nashville. Then on the weekend, you have Philadelphia having to go to PKs, surviving Chicago. After they get down 2-0, come back with an equalizer. Vancouver takes care of business with Dallas. San Diego at the Murph Dragon takes care of business with Portland. Have there been any surprises to you at all, either on the field, off, because of how something looked on the weekend?
You know what I've enjoyed is I am in total fan mode right now of just watching games. And I've tried to turn off my brain. It's a little bit hard sometimes when I'm watching games. I've tried very, very hard. And what I will say is how I know I'm kind of in fan mode a little bit is that I've been like hoping for penalty kicks. I'm like, yes, let's get super dramatic. Let's do it. And so when Chicago got the late 2 goals against Philadelphia, that was probably the biggest surprise for me, just contextually, not because I don't think Chicago has what it takes. I really actually like Chicago and their attack. They're going to give up goals, but they're going to score. We know that. But I think just it happening so late in the game was something I did not necessarily expect. And even the commentators were saying, well, we thought this was going to be a different game 10 minutes ago. And that was exciting. Last night, Seattle taking Minnesota to penalty kicks. And those were weird penalties, to be quite honest, the way it happened. I like a little bit of the swagger I saw from St. Clair. Some people don't like that. I don't mind it. And I thought that was fun to watch. But hitting a crossbar, hitting 2 posts, like It was bizarre, but hey, it makes for great viewing, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay, so before we get into those highlights, let me ask you this. When you were a participating athlete, were you tapped on the shoulder to do PKs as a part of that rotation at all?
I was actually always the fifth penalty kick taker. So I love penalties. And so that's probably a big part of even why, as a fan, I love going to penalty kicks. I love seeing what people do, what it does to players, what it does to goalkeepers. I like the psychology of it.
So, as the number 5, obviously, that's a great deal of responsibility, and you seem to have shouldered it fairly well in these moments where it's like, do you wanna be 1? Do you wanna be 5? Is there a difference in the idea of, "Yeah, I wanna go 1st," or, "Yeah, I wanna go 5th"? I mean, it seems like the mentality should be, "Okay, I'm ready to go. I wanna be the first one in the barn," or like, "Yeah, I'll cement this for you in the bottom of the 5th." Am I wrong with those 2 ideas?
First and five are the most critical. I completely believe that. But you do touch on a psychological difference of there's always going to be pressure on every kick. Let's not say that there's not, but the first kick, you really get to go in and just be that consistent. I can make a penalty. When you're a fifth kicker, and sometimes it falls on the fourths at times if it doesn't get to the fifth kicker, but normally the fifth kicker not only has the consistency and technique, but they relish the moment of I can handle the extra pressure of knowing I could be the hero or I could lose the entire thing for us.
When you are, and this is literally diving into the weeds here, the art of the PK. Now, since you've opened this door,
I love it.
I want
I
to
love
get
this conversation.
I want to get into this a bit because obviously you have been analyzing the first 4 frames. You've been looking at goalkeeper tendencies. You probably also studied keeper tendencies going in just in case you got to PKs. Then you're stepping up to this. How do you mask your intention knowing what the keeper already anticipates is going to be happening? How do you mask what you're going to do and how you want to put the ball behind the keeper in a situation like this?
Good question. I have to answer this by saying I played quite a while ago. We won't say a long time ago, but I
Well,
do.
but you did TST, so you're still active though.
Yeah, as of 3 years ago, you're right. I'm on the coaching side for sure now. But what I will say is that when I was a player, I was very much of the philosophy you pick your spot and you hit it.
Uh-huh.
And you're 12 yards out, you should be able to do that. Yes, there was scouting. Yes, goalkeepers knew where you're going. And I remember late in my college career, because I took them in college and I took them professionally. Late in my college career, my coaching staff came to me and said, "You take all our penalty kicks, even in game. Everyone knows where you go now. You need to go the other way at least one time." So they guess. Well, that shows you how much it's evolved because now you're seeing players go up slow and the goalkeeper moves. We saw it last night against St. Clair. Goalkeeper moves, we just go the opposite way. So there's definitely even more of the games a little bit and being able to change in the moment. I don't know if I would have operated as well in that because I love the piece of this is what I do. If I hit it right, you're not going to stop it. And so I just stayed with that philosophy and it bred confidence in me as I went through it.
How difficult is it to, and this is something as a non-athlete watching athletes do it, how difficult is it to contort your body to where it looks like you're doing one thing, but in effect you end up doing something else because it could be plant foot does this, and then you have to figure out, okay, under normal circumstances, plant foot is going straight, so it's going straight, or it's going straight to where
Mhm.
the target is. How difficult is it to sit there and do one thing and then have to contort your body to do something else entirely?
Like anything, you have to practice. And I'm still a believer in that even if you do contort and say you're going to go this way and go the other way, I mean, these are athletes of the highest level. So they're able to do that physically, but it still needs to be practiced. And I put my coaching hat on. I used to scout for our penalty kicks for like the U17 World Cup when I was with US Soccer and ours, the oppositions, all of those things. At the end of the day in training, if you are going to employ some type of penalty kick where there's deception or where they're stopping, starting, moving this way to go the opposite way, it needs to be practiced because, like anything, there's muscle memory associated with it. Then it's just about calming the nerves in the moment and being able to pull that off.
Did you ever Panenka or do something fancy?
No, never, never. I would never have tried the Panenka. It blows my mind. That is another level of confidence and understanding. But what I will say is that goalkeepers now are at a different level of how they handle penalty kicks as well. And some are leaving very early. So to keep people honest, almost like mine was simple. I just had to go to the opposite side of what I normally did to keep a goalkeeper honest. Now people have to do things like the Panenka. That's not in my personality. I'll be quite honest with you. So never tried it.
Okay, so here's the last part of Minnesota and Seattle in the PKs. So this will be the end of the match is our highlight, brought to us by our friends at Apple TV and MLS Soccer. Here was how it was broken down last night. I believe it was Jake and TT on the call here on Apple TV and Apple TV Plus.
But there was so much power and pace.
Unless, of course, it's Kendra and Tyler. Let's try it again.
St. Clair already with a save tonight. A deep breath from the U.S. international. Christian Roldan off the bar.
And you just mentioned his miss against Puebla. And he just lifts it. He just gets it wrong. He's trying to go over that top corner. Right off the crossbar.
And now Julian Gressel to win it for Minnesota. Off the post. The Minnesota United players at midfield were already beginning their celebration.
The crowd was about to erupt as well. And then you just hear it ring right off the pipe.
To keep the train moving for the Sounders. Leva. Off the post. And Minnesota United will claim game one.
That was 3 misses in one cycle. That's crazy to me.
It is. It is. I definitely did not expect it. Gressel came in with no touches on the ball either to take penalties. So did Leva. And that brings up a whole other discussion point. But they both ended up missing their penalties. Here's what I will say. I believe that all the misses, besides Alex Roldan, that was saved. The 3 misses, in my opinion, were really good penalty kicks. It's a matter of an inch. And going, I mean, the one thing I'll say about Leva, he came across it a little bit strange, but Christian Roldan and Gressel, I thought hit really nice penalties. And on the right day, it hits the inside of the post and bounces in. It goes an inch a little bit slower, but they hit it with confidence. They hit it with somewhat precision. And so I thought it was a little bit unlucky, to be quite honest, for both of them.
And you mentioned the idea of coming in cold. How hard is it to come in cold like we saw with Leva and Gressel and being asked to perform in a PK situation where you weren't really in the run of play and you were just kind of getting acclimated yourself? How difficult is it to reorient and just hop into the fire like that and be in PKs?
I think it's difficult, but these managers know their players and they have a job. And all of those things would have been discussed well prior to this game of if we go to penalty kicks, you're a top 5 penalty kick taker. How do you feel about coming in? Those types of things. And so those players wouldn't be surprised by their entry into the game. I do think it just means they have to be psychologically very strong, very confident, but the managers would know that whether they're capable or not. And I think they both are more than capable and hit pretty decent penalty kicks, but it can backfire at times.
Have you ever gone like jet black or purple or gray hair, just, like orange or anything like that to be completely different?
No, I have not.
Considering that Gressel was the only one of all of the Minnesota United players that was not either a brunette or a raven-haired individual. He comes out looking like he dunked his head in a vat of Parmesan cheese and comes in. I just didn't know where you were personality-wise. I would imagine that Anson would not have been a fan of something like that. True?
I'll be honest. I'm very A-type personality. I am not that person who's doing anything super wacky or wild. Anson actually would have said, I don't care what you do as long as you perform. So he actually was the opposite of what a lot of people think with like a ton of rules, things like that. He actually just said, if you can perform, I don't care if you look crazy. I don't care what you do. But if you can't perform, we got to have a discussion.
And so Minnesota, I have to ask this philosophically about Minnesota since we're here. I know that coaches are different. I know that philosophies are different. I know that a lot of folks want to sit there and they want to, slam it into fifth gear coming out of the, light turns green. You want to slam it into second, skip third, go right to fourth, and go right down the quarter mile. Eric Ramsey, to me, in Minnesota, I'm sure he drives people crazy because in addition to being the king of the quarter zip and the white T-shirt, they play like the ball has cooties. They want nothing to do with it. And there was at one point where they were north of 40% possession, and I'm sure the earth rotated off its axis, and it was, careening into Mars or something like that. When you have someone who is philosophically like that, where they don't want the ball and they want the effort to be exerted by the other side, knowing that we'll just embrace the pressure and we'll sit here and we'll sit here and we'll sit here and then wait for you to blink. How frustrating is that going up against a team like a Minnesota where you've got to be the one sitting there with the jackhammer for a full 90 minutes and then they wait for you to make a mistake?
Well, most teams do love to have the ball. So I think that part of it's not frustrating. It's how do you break down a mid block or a low block or a team that's very comfortable out of possession. That's where it can get frustrating because your ball rotation is important, your build-up patterns, how you manipulate defenders to step out. And then you have to be aware of their counterattacking transition. So it's not necessarily new. It can be frustrating at times, but your attack just has to be that much better. I think one of the things that's overlooked with a coach like an Eric Ramsey or other coaches that tend to do that is that his own personal philosophy for every club he would manage? Or is it based on the player profiles that he has? And he knows that that's their best way to have success. It's probably a little bit of both. And I don't mind that because you do have to go a little bit by player profile, especially early on. If you go years down the line, yes, you can bring players in that might fit a different style of play. But I think it's that mix of both for him.
What do you think about, and this has also caught a lot of folks' attention recently, what do you think about the long throw-in and all of the furor that's been attached to that? Michael Boxall, we saw it last night, where Michael Boxall wants to take two hands and run, and throw the 35-yard bomb and something like that inside the 18. What do you think about this recent furor about the long throw-in?
I love the long throw-in. Why wouldn't you use it? If you have that as a potential weapon, use it. And it's just an extra set piece opportunity. And I am very much a possession-oriented type coach, and I love having the ball. Anytime that I've had teams, I've always gone more towards the let's outscore the opponent rather than keep them off the board. That's been my philosophy. But if you have really good opportunities to use a throw in, use a long service off a free kick, and to get players in the box, and that's what you're good at, why wouldn't a coach use it? So I have no problem with that whatsoever. And I think it's smart on their end.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's like, if you want to sit there and have all of these different weapons, why would you not take advantage of something? People like ban the long throw. And I'm like, why? Stop.
Banning a corner kick. I mean, if you have it, why wouldn't you do it? It's a law of the game. They're able to chuck it in the box, and it's dangerous. I don't necessarily get the fury behind it, to be honest. It's been around forever. Eric Ramsey's not the first person or team to implement this.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, okay, fine. Yeah. You can have your thoughts. And I know that we would respectfully disagree in a situation like that. Yeah. It's like, look, I'm team long throw in. I see it in the high school game a lot. And I see dudes that, when you have the track that's around the turf surface, and you see the kid going all the way back out to lane 8, running 20 yards, and then he does the long throw in and it turns into a weapon. I'm like, fine, that's how you're wired. Go ahead and take advantage of something like that.
It's not something I want to defend against, which tells me that if you have it, you should use it. But I don't love it, and I don't love defending against it, but it's part of it.
Yep. Let's get into college. Actually, real quick, before we get into college, the other match last night, it was Cincinnati. And once again, Cincinnati and Columbus, hell is real. They went at each other and pounded each other into the ground for about 80 minutes. Then you have that one moment where Echenike comes in with the cross. I think it was Alvis Powell who kind of dumped it back, and then Denke with the slam dunk. So the 2 seed, once again, all the home teams winning so far in MLS Cup playoffs.
It was a good game, too. It was back and forth, opportunities on both sides. I loved seeing that matchup was going to happen because we knew it was going to be fun. I think it's far from over, to be quite honest with you, because it was pretty close on both ends.
All right. So SEC, right now, it's going to be kind of busy this weekend. South Carolina and Alabama. That one is number 7 versus number 10. And then it's then I've got Alabama and South Carolina. What is that? It's like, wait, you reverse this for me. It's like SEC Network has both listed. South Carolina, Alabama, and then Alabama unranked against number 17, South Carolina. It's like, what are you people doing? It's 2 matches at the same time involving 2 teams in 2 separate locations, ranked 3 different numbers at 12:30 on Sunday afternoon. Anyway, past that one. Kentucky and Florida, number 6 and number 11 at 3 o'clock. And then it's Oklahoma, Mississippi State, and Mississippi State ranked at either 8 or 25 or 9 or whatever. And it's just, all of this is chaos. You have all of these. Oh, these are seeds. It took me a second. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? Okay, so they've listed it twice by seeding in the tournament and then with the ranking of the team. Okay, this is what happens when I don't read the SEC website correctly. Okay, it is the 7 seed South Carolina against the 10 seed Alabama at 12:30. However, South Carolina is ranked at number 17. Use parentheses. Oh, God bless. After that, it's Kentucky and Florida in the 6-11 matchup, Oklahoma and Mississippi State in the 8-9. Mississippi State ranked at number 25. LSU and Auburn is your 5-12. Neither of them are ranked. Vandy, Georgia, Arkansas, Tennessee, they all wait in the wings. What about the SEC looking at that one with Vandy coming in hot? I think they've won 6 in a row. I
think the first round matchup is the Alabama-South Carolina matchup. South Carolina is very good this year, but Alabama is as well. The SEC is incredibly deep. So of those play-in games, I think that's the one that you can't predict as well. The other ones I think probably are going to go the way of the higher seed just based on the consistency of performance. One of the big notes, and I'll just say it quickly, is I don't remember a time that Texas and Texas A&M both did not even qualify for their conference tournament when there's 12 involved. So that's crazy to me. But back to the teams that are doing well. I do think that first matchup between those 2 teams will be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, and Alabama, I believe, comes in losing 3 in a row as they come into the tournament where they are one of the seeds. And however, they are not ranked, but you wouldn't know that because everything runs together and they list it twice on the SEC website. Okay, ACC. Looking at things on the women's side, and you look at the standings, and we've been talking about the teams at the top just blowing doors off of everybody. Notre Dame, they're human. They actually drew. They did something other than a win, and now they and Stanford are tied at 8-0-1 at the top, both at 25 points, far and away better than everybody else. Stanford has now won 8 in a row. Duke behind them has won 5 in a row at 18 points. And then everybody else has been kind of beating each other up. Clemson trying to come out of lane 8. They've won 4 in a row. So you look at what's going on the women's side. I'm intrigued, but Notre Dame has proven that they are, in fact, human, apparently.
Well, between 4th and 11th, it's 3 points difference. That's the craziness of the ACC. You're right about Notre Dame. They're still phenomenal. I think that they'll be more than fine. Now it's really any team up through 11th, and I believe that's State and Clemson, have technically a chance to get into the ACC tournament. But what I want to point out is really this last game in the ACC, you're playing for your NCAA tournament hopes in a lot of ways because the way the ACC tournament structured, with it being so minimal with only 6 teams going in, it's really about finishing in the top 8 to 10 teams because that's really the history of how many ACC teams get into the tournament. So most of those teams on the outside looking in, okay, they could potentially sneak in on a tiebreaker or if something strange goes their way, but it's more about making sure that their record looks good going before the committee.
Yeah, and there's a 6-point gap between NC State, who is in 11th, if my math is correct, sliding down 3, 6, 9, 11. Yeah, NC State's in 11th at 14 points. Then it's a 6-point gap to SMU, who's at 8, BC, Miami, Syracuse, Pitt, and Virginia Tech. They're right there at the bottom. But what the wild thing is, you mentioned it, Duke at 18 points, Virginia, Louisville, FSU at 17. Then it's Cal at 16, Wake at 15, North Carolina at 15, Clemson, NC State at 14. How tight is the ACC on the women's side for someone who hasn't seen it this year?
Incredibly tight. I would have to go back and look many years, but I don't know if I've ever seen this many teams in potential contention. When you're talking about a 3rd place team in Duke that if everything went wrong for them could not qualify, like that's just crazy to me. And so not only is it tight, but there's different types of teams that are in contention that haven't necessarily been. And you have a team like Florida State that I believe is very good. And I just had their game with UVA. Both teams incredibly gifted. But Florida State is sitting in 6th place. So if it goes wrong for them on Thursday, they could not be in the ACC tournament. When did we last say that? And it's not because they aren't at the level to be there. It's because the ACC is so incredibly deep.
Yep, and on the men's side, Stanford at 16 points. You mentioned tight. Virginia's at 15, NC State's at 14, Clemson at 13, SMU and Syracuse at 12, Duke and Notre Dame at 11, North Carolina's at 10, and then you get into Virginia Tech, Wake, Pitt, Louisville, Cal, and BC. So, yeah, I mean, literally it's another blink and you'll miss it opportunity on the men's side, too, with a lot of folks beating each other up.
It just seems to be the theme. It seems to be the theme of this year. And with the men's side, which I obviously have vested interest in this, that it's Duke, Carolina on Friday for the last game of the year, which is always fun. I don't know why that doesn't happen every single year on the men's and the women's side, but they're very close in the standings, 1 point difference. And so it affects seeding. And then there's other great matchups as well.
Yeah, you look at the men's side on their schedule, and if I'm looking at it correctly, Stanford and Cal, Pitt and Louisville, Syracuse and NC State, and this is all on Friday. So Halloween, by the way, you get you're wrapping up the regular season. Stanford and Cal, Pitt and Louisville, Syracuse and NC State, Virginia and SMU, Notre Dame and Wake and Winston-Salem, St. Joe's and BC in a non-conference game, Virginia Tech and Clemson, and Duke and Carolina, 8 o'clock in Chapel Hill on ACC Network. Where are you going to be at 8 o'clock on Halloween night?
I'm probably going to be at that game, to be quite honest with you. I am in town, so I have the game prior on the Thursday with North Carolina State versus UNC women at 8 p.m. So Friday, I'm probably going to mosey on over to Dorrance Field, watch a little ACC men's soccer action.
Gee, I'm not surprised about that at all. I'm shocked, Case. So
I love soccer. What can I say? I know, self-described soccer nerd. I get it.
Nothing wrong with that. So we'll be looking forward to your call at the tail end of the week, and then NWSL, I believe, wraps up this weekend regular season as well. So when you come on next Tuesday, we'll look at the postseason of the NWSL and the chaos that was attached with that, and we'll just keep rolling with Major League Soccer, NWSL playoffs, college action, and that's what we always bring you in for to bat leadoff on Tuesdays to kind of let everybody else know what else is going on that they might have missed. It's always great to see you, Case, and I know that Owen either wants breakfast or a walk.
He's been whimpering a little bit, so he's impatient today, so I'll get him another walk.
Wow. Okay, so, yeah, Owen's going to get a walk. So where is Owen, by the way?
He's down below, just sitting down here. Come here, Owen.
I'm sure he's harumphing. He's like, excuse me.
Up. Come on. Up.
No, it's too early. I don't want to do it.
He's so well trained, you know.
I don't want to do it. I'm not interested. We're going outside right now, and where's my chicken?
Exactly. Oh well, he's not willing to show his face today.
Yeah, he's being a shy diva. Be well, Case, and as always, you can bang on the door at any time. But it's great to see you on Tuesdays. Thanks for dropping by.
Of course. Have a good one.
There goes Casey D. And so where's she be? She be outside taking Owen for a walk. And that's what's going on there. So it's always great to catch up with Casey to get her thoughts on everything that's going on in college soccer from an SEC and ACC perspective. And like I said, next Tuesday, this is the last weekend of the NWSL regular season. And just to recap everything there, let's get into that chaos outside of what's going on at the top spot. And the standings are insane. And our friend Jessica Charman's going to be a part of the NWSL championship in the Bay Area. So it'll be at PayPal Park, I believe. So here's your standings heading into the final week of the regular season. Kansas City 18 points clear, which is insane to me to begin with. They are unbeaten at home, 10 wins and 2 draws. They're 10-3-0 away from home. They've only given up 12 goals all year. 12 goals all year. 25 matches. And they've given up 12 goals. So it's a goals against a .48, I believe. 62 points, 18 points clear. Kansas City has been dominant. It has bordered the ridiculous. Washington is second at 44. They are mean and clean, and right now they're in second place. They can't get touched. Here's where the fun begins. You have Orlando at 39 points. Orlando's at 39. Then you have Seattle at 38, San Diego at 37, Portland at 37. Goal difference is 3 behind San Diego on an identical record. So 37 points, both at 10, 8, and 7. Goal difference +8 to +5. So if Portland wants to try and match San Diego. If they both match their results, if they both win, Portland is looking at blowout city. That's what they need to do to make up that 3-goal difference to try to get to the 5, or they're stuck at the 6. But you've got Gotham at 36 points, hovering behind that, and you've got Racing Louisville in the 8 at 34 points, trying to work their way up. They could be the 7, they could be the 6, and they would have a worse goal difference. They would have to make up at least a 9-goal difference to better Portland. If Portland was to lose and Racing Louisville was to win, they'd both be at 37, but Racing Louisville's at -4 in goal difference compared to Portland at +5. So they'd have to win by like 10 goals. And Portland would have to lose and, draw back a little bit. Then you have the Courage in 9th at 32 points. So if the Courage win and Racing Louisville loses, Courage are the 8, Racing Louisville is out. So that's what you're staring at, and everybody else eliminated from contention: Houston, Angel City, Utah, and Bay. And Utah caught fire tail end of the year. They had a horrendous start, and they finished at 12th of the 13 teams. So that's your chaos in the NWSL. It's not at the 1 and the 2. It's 3 through 9. 39, 38, 37, 37. Goal difference into play there. 36, 34, and 32. That's what you're staring at last week of the regular season. And in those matchups, everything is short of the 3 o'clock game with Kansas City and San Diego. Everything else is at 5 o'clock. Utah and Washington. Once again, Washington is in the 2, and this is just for pride for the Utah. Portland and Houston at 5 o'clock. Houston can be a spoiler. Orlando and Seattle, that's the 3 and the 4 going at it once again at 5 o'clock. North Carolina in a play-in game has to beat Gotham. That's at 5 o'clock. Then Racing Louisville at 5 o'clock. Once again, Bay can be a spoiler for Racing Louisville and can make life easy for North Carolina FC if North Carolina FC beats Gotham. And then you have the Stars in LA. That one's also at 5 o'clock on the 2nd. So that's your rundown of the NWSL and the chaos that's attached there. So obviously when KCD comes back next week, we'll take a peek at what's going on with the playoff picture and how it all lays out here. So, of course, so of course, now that KCD is off camera, she says now he wants to show his face. And so here is the picture that KCD sent of Owen. Owen finally pops up after mom is off camera. So there you go. So there's Owen. He's like, well, where's my chicken? So that's the life of everything going on right now involving NWSL, college soccer, SEC, ACC, and what KCD got to see so far in the playoffs. And I'm glad that we got into the art of the penalty kick a little bit, because there have been a lot of posts. There have been some crossbars that have been attached. And so Kendra and Tyler, they had a fun one last night where you had a crossbar and 2 posts in the PKs. So you had that happen last night. The one match that we did not have on the board was the first match of the evening in Hell is Real. Like I said, we've reached out to folks after match day 1. We'll see what happens as they get ready for match day 2. So here's what happened last night. The one moment, and sometimes that's all you need is one moment. This one is Jake and Tyler and Taylor. Tyler called the first match. Taylor's on color for this match. Man, my brain is fried no more than normal. But anyway, Jake and TT, courtesy of our friends at Apple TV Plus and Major League Soccer. Here's your one goal from Hell is Real.
One saved by Salentano, and this one just wide.
He's been a big player for them this year, filling in for the injured Mo Farsi, who's been out for several months.
Remember when Herrera was sent, oh, good ball.
Echenike across all the way! Duncan! They finally find their breakthrough!
He recognizes it just a second too late. The left foot of Sean Zawadzki keeps Echenike on. Great ball in behind from Evander. And Alvis Paul's come into this game and changed it, defending in transition, playing it back across the goal. And Kevin Denke, time and time again, has shown up in the right spot at the right time with a huge goal for the Bailey and FC Cincinnati tonight. It's 1-0.
And that was how it would wrap, that you end up with 1-0 on the board. Let's see. So from the 4-letter paper, and Ricky has posted this into the Twitch pitch. So let's discuss this briefly as he has put this in the Twitch pitch. I know that there's a lot of conversation involving Tata Martino and Atlanta United that's going on right now. According to the 4-letter paper overseas, there's only going to be one Premier League fixture on Boxing Day expected. Break from tradition. Fixture congestion caused by the UEFA competition expansion and the FA Cup move to weekends. League must still deliver 33 weekends of fixtures to broadcasters. While not yet confirmed, Boxing Day likely will feature a single televised match, the rest played across Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to meet scheduling obligations. Interesting. So Boxing Day, only one. But they're still going to try and figure out a way to get everything all jammed into each other. And it's like, was it 3 games in 8 days? And they call it festive fixtures. For the rest of us, it's festive fixtures because we're sitting there and we're opening up all of our gifts and we're getting everything all lined up for Christmas and what's going to get recycled. And, you know, the folks that come by and pick up all of the recycles that we have in our big bins and everything, they come by on Monday and they see everything there. But it ain't festive for those players that have to do 3 and 8. Then you're trying to figure out your fantasy team. You're trying to figure out, okay, how is this going to run? Do you sit there in a week and go, yeah, my team's playing 3. I'll bank on the idea of my guy playing 2 of the 3 when I'm looking at my matchups? But, yeah, it is not festive fixtures at all for that group. I mean, it gives us stuff to talk about, don't get me wrong. But festive fixtures, one apparently only on Boxing Day, which is wild to think about. But, yeah, the 4-letter newspaper over there had that as a part of their discussion. So once again, take the information at your own peril. But right now it looks like if that does come to pass, that we'll only have the one match in the Premier League on Boxing Day, which is really, really weird. So that's absolutely crazy. We have the one match tonight in Major League Soccer, and it is Charlotte and NYC. I forgot to ask Kacey D about NYC, considering that she and Jessica Charm and the Wonder Twins had NYC on decision day. But right now, looking at the juice boxes in that matchup, once again, anticipated that the home team is favored. Once again, the home team's won all the matches so far when it comes to the postseason in Major League Soccer. And you're staring at it and you're going, okay. But NYC has now flipped. This is interesting. Considering the absence of Wilfred Zaha, and like I said, we had our conversation last Friday with Will Pelagic, play-by-play voice of Charlotte FC. Remember, they're going to be on WBT, AM and FM, if you wish to listen to the local option, or you could just listen to the local option on Apple TV+. But if you're looking at it over rabbit ears and such, or on your apps, WBT, AM and FM for them, not on their normal sports talk station. But initially, heading into the weekend, Charlotte was favored, even with the Zaha absence. Now, Zaha's absence and whatever else is implying the trade here has flipped the number. So the road team is favored in this one at a plus 144. Charlotte is a plus 169. Your draw is a plus 241. I would anticipate something very low scoring. That's just me. And perhaps, literally, I'm thinking it goes to PKs. That's my gut. That's what I'm staring at in this one tonight. And it is just to give you your juice boxes on the totals. 2.5 is a minus 134. 3 is a plus 119. So that's where it changes. And 3.5 is a plus 173. So if you're looking at a shootout at the bank, well, that sounded like a cop movie, didn't it? If you're looking at a lot of goals at the bank at the plus 3.5, the number is plus 173. If you're thinking that the keepers are going to stand on their heads, not allow a lot in at plus 1.5, it's a minus 455. So that's the numbers there. And once again, remember that tonight, whoa, we're going to make it right. 6:45, so it probably means 6:55 since it's on FS1 and Fox Deportes and Apple TV and MLS Season Pass. So that is the 6:55. It's listed, like I said, it's listed 6:45. So to me, that means with the Super Hyper Mega pregame show, it's probably something 6:55-ish when it comes to this matchup at the bank tonight. And looking at ref assignments, let's see if we have our matchups here all figured out. And it is tonight John Freeman in the middle. Jeffrey Greason, no relation. Jeffrey Greason, Tyler Y. Rostick, your ARs. Alan Chapman is your fourth. Timothy Ford is your VAR tonight. And Craig Lowry is also with him upstairs. Tomorrow, LA and Austin FC at BMO Stadium at 10:30. Rosendo Mendoza is the man in the middle. Corey Richardson, Kevin Locke, your ARs. Marcus de Oliveira is your fourth. Daniel Radford and Tom Supple are upstairs. So let me see. Let's see what kind of a matchup we get with John Freeman in the middle. And so you're looking at, all right, so referees. Let me see if we can get the referee search here. So let me see. Let me see if I did it right. Let me see if I can do that. No, it wouldn't give it to me. Oh, that's bad. Okay, so let me see if we have a different way to do it here. So no, it doesn't exist. Yes, it does exist. Well, let's see. So nothing like trying to chase ref stats when you know that. All right. So referee statistics. Here we go. John Freeman this season, 8th in matches officiated. He had 22 times in the middle. Averages 24 fouls a match. So basically, for every fourth tackle, he calls a foul. 0.27 penalties per match, 4.45 yellows, and he has given in his 22 matches, he's got to be top 5 when it comes to yellow cards. He is. Right now, John Freeman listed as top 4 in bulk in his yellow cards with 98, technically tied for third with Victor Rivas. Rosendo Mendoza, far and away the most yellow cards issued this season at 116 in 24 matches, averaging 4.83 yellows a match. Filip Dujic, however, is second at 102. Dujic called 2 more matches. Victor Rivas and John Freeman tied at 98. And John Freeman has given 2 reds this season in his 22 matches. So yellows per match for anyone that has called double digits. Let's do it that way. You're looking at Ismir Pekmic, who gave 5 yellows per match on average, but he only navigated 16 matches in the middle. Rosendo Mendoza would be second. Lorenzo Hernandez would be third. And so you're looking at John Freeman, 7th of referees who called matches in double digits. Pekmic, Mendoza, Hernandez, Demjanchuk, Timothy Ford, Alexis De Silva, John Freeman. So that puts him 7th in matches called. And so that puts him 7th in yellows per match at 4.45. So that's what you're staring at with John Freeman tonight when you're looking at the numbers across the board for John Freeman and what kind of a match he may call or has been known to call in the past. And then Rosendo Mendoza for LA and Austin, that will be another adventure entirely. So that is your analysis and your rundown of everything that is attached to Charlotte and NYC tonight. No surprise, mind you, that LAFC and Austin is a heavy favorite for LAFC right now at a minus 263. Austin FC is a plus 619 to get a win outright. 90-minute draws a plus 368, and they're going to have to rely on Brad Stuver and that defense tomorrow night at BMO late night as we do MLS playoffs after dark. So we'll keep an eye on all of that as we go. We do have, as we're now in hour number 2, and thanks for dropping by, as you always do. John here, you there. Let me say hi to everybody and take the tour and let you know about all the promos and things we have going on. So morning Dr. D, morning Pars, and morning Alex, and morning Wiley. Let's see, morning Ricky. And I know, like I said, I know that you guys are going through the Tata Martinez discussion. Wiley says, I had to kill on my high school team that could do the flip. You had a kid. You had a kid on the high school team that could do the flip throw. Did you see the video of the guy that tried to do, and this was a professional league in South America. He tried to do the flip throw and got to the point to where your head and the ball are on the ground before you do the flip, but he got his head to the ground first and his angle was wrong, and it turned into I hope the guy's okay. I think he got up and walked away from it, but literally he ended up face planting before he could. The face plant happened first, the ball hit the ground, and then he just basically just wiped out before he could do the throw. I don't think he fell into the field of play, but literally head hit the ground first, and then there was no way that he could turn and flip and get the ball thrown into play. But yeah, so I've seen it. Flip throw can be pretty dangerous, but you've got to know how to do it right. But the long throw in, we've seen it a lot where folks will be like at lane 8 on the track, and they get a good, a good 10 to 12 yard run up, and then they throw it into the box, something like that. So it's always a fun thing to see. So morning for soccer for good OG. Morning to you. And then Ricky brought in the idea of the Boxing Day thing. And let's see, Dr. D and Ricky and all the discussions there. So that's so there you go. Good morning to all of you folks, and good morning to all of you who are following along. So we know the news that happened, and we'll kind of recap everything that's gone on at Celtic. Martin O'Neill was interviewed by Jim White on TalkSport this morning, local time, as he was boarding a plane and I guess getting ready to get things started with him and his tenure. We'll play a bit of Jim's conversation with Martin O'Neill coming up in a bit. But there were absolutely there was nothing that was held to any kind of a guess when it came to what the front office thought about Brendan Rodgers. So Brendan Rodgers was, he was kind of shown the door, and it was a bad scene when it came to the thoughts of the more public folks that are attached to wanting the gig. And so Brendan Rodgers resigns. Club chief Dermot Desmond hammered the toxic atmosphere that he created. Dermot Desmond, for those that may not know, and it's going to be Sean Maloney and Martin O'Neill that are going to be taking over First Team Matters. But Dermot Desmond is Celtic's largest individual shareholder. And so he accused Brendan Rodgers of a toxic atmosphere. So Desmond releases a statement. And we'll go over to the contenders to take over the job full-time in a bit. On the flip side of this, and we'll play the interviews clip that we have with Martin O'Neill and Jim White. Here's Dermot Desmond. Quote, "When we brought Brendan back to Celtic 2 years ago, it was done with complete trust and belief in his ability to lead the club into a new era of sustained success. Unfortunately, his conduct and communication in recent months have not reflected that trust. In June, both Michael Nicholson, the team CEO, and I expressed to Brendan we were keen to offer him a contract extension to reaffirm the club's full backing and long-term commitment to him. He said he would need to think about it and revert. Yet in subsequent press conferences, Brendan implied that the club had made no commitment to offer him a contract that was simply untrue. Paragraph. We met with Brendan regularly, including in December last year and at the start of the summer, with regular dialogue in between to discuss and agree our collective strategy, priorities, and approach. Every player signed and every player sold during his tenure was done so with Brendan's full knowledge, approval, and endorsement. Any insinuation otherwise is absolutely false. Paragraph. His later public statements about transfers and club operations came entirely out of the blue. At no point prior to those remarks had he raised any such concerns with me, Michael, or any member of the board or executive team. In reality, he was given final say over all football matters and was consistently backed in the recruitment process, including record investment in players he personally identified and approved. Paragraph. When his comments were made publicly, I sought to address them directly. Brendan and I met for over 3 hours at his home in Scotland to discuss the issue. Despite ample opportunity, he was unable to identify a single instance where the club had obstructed or failed to support him. The facts did not match his public narrative. Regrettably, his words and actions since then have been divisive, misleading, and self-serving. they've contributed to a toxic atmosphere around the club and fueled hostility towards members of the executive team and the board. Some of the abuse directed at them and at their families has been entirely unwarranted and unacceptable. Every member of the board and executive team is deeply passionate about Celtic and acts at all times with professionalism, integrity, and a shared desire for success. What has failed recently was not due to our structure or model, but to one individual's desire for self-preservation at the expense of others. Celtic structure, where the manager oversees football, the chief executive manages operations, and the board provides oversight, has served the club with great success for more than 2 decades. We all share the same ambition to ensure Celtic's continued success domestically and achieve further progress in Europe. Every pound generated by the club is reinvested towards those goals and the continuous improvement of Celtic Football Club. Celtic is greater than any one person. Our focus now is on restoring harmony, strengthening the squad, and continuing to build a club worthy of its values, traditions, and supporters, end quote. Second right now in the Premiership, 17 points, 8 behind Hearts. They'd won just twice in their last 7 in all comps, losing to Hearts, 123rd match in charge during his second stint, 83-20 and 20, 2.19 points a match. And then you have Martin O'Neill, the interim appointment. First took the reins in June of 2000, and he was there until May of 2005 when he resigned so he could take care of his wife who had lymphoma at the time. 3 Scottish Premiership titles, 3 Scottish Cups, 1 Scottish League Cup, runners-up finish in UEFA Cup. Interim role also marks O'Neill's first managerial gig since he left Nottingham Forest in June of 2019. Maloney returns to the club he began playing his career with, 138 appearances. O'Neill and Maloney, once again, one managed the other on 106 occasions for the Hoops in Aston Villa. First league match in charge is on Wednesday as they host Falkirk in a league fixture. And so now Martin O'Neill takes over, and Jim White caught up with Martin O'Neill on a plane, or he was heading to a plane, to kind of get the lay of the land with Martin O'Neill as to what he's thinking about this gig. And remember, this is a guy who earlier in the day that he was appointed caretaker manager of Celtic, he said that Hearts was going to win the league on television. In his pundit role, he said Hearts was going to win the league. So Celtic picks up the phone and says, "Yo, Martin, you want to be a manager for the rest of the year?" He says, "Sure." And that was part of the conversation that Martin O'Neill had with Jim White on Talk Sport this morning.
Really some great options way back 25 years ago. So from that viewpoint, maybe by the time that I pulled myself off the floor, I probably thought then maybe I should do it.
What would you say to some of those who this morning are saying, well, this is Martin O'Neill, all these years on, this is his heart ruling his head?
Who knows? Absolutely. This is it's a short term. Celtic, obviously, I think probably are stunned with the news that Brendan left, and as a consequence, they have maybe might be obviously are seeking a permanent manager, and so this is like a short term. Well, I'm not going to say a fix, but it's certainly a short term fit. Anyway, whether it's a fix or not is another thing.
I mean, you're an interim charge. I wonder what that means. Does interim mean interim to you?
Yeah, interim does mean that to me. Absolutely. It's really as simple as that. There, Celtic are looking for. They are looking for. I would have assumed a young coach coming in now, who has a proven ability, and would be wanting to pull the club forward now from their position as it stands. That's how I would view it, and I suppose if I was a Celtic fan, that's how I would absolutely see it.
That is Martin O'Neill with Jim White on Talk Sport this morning, local time. So your odds, and there are courtesy of our friends at TalkSport Bet. Here is the rundown, and I'm going to go from 7-1 with the bar at 14-1. So the bar is 8th for selection for the new Celtic manager. Robbie Keane from Ferencváros with our buddy Stephen Glass. They're on that staff at 12-1. Edin Terzic is also at 12-1. Top 5, Kjetil Knutsen is at 10-1 along with Martin O'Neill. So if anybody, and I would want to talk to these folks, if anybody wants to put a pound or a euro or a dollar on Martin O'Neill after he just said that this is an interim gig for me at 10-1, give me that dollar because I can put it to good use. Martin O'Neill at 10-1, who admits in an interview this morning, local time, that he's there in the interim, and he's listed 4th on the list at 10-1. I mean, are they that hard up for names at TalkSport Bet? Instead of just sliding everybody up and having the bar be one place less, we're going to put Martin O'Neill in there considering he's the current guy, and he's a caretaker manager. He said he's only a caretaker manager, and we're going to put him in there in 4th at 10-1. Sure. 3rd is Sean Maloney, the current assistant for Martin O'Neill for the remainder of this season. He's at 6-1. Kieran McKenna is an interesting name. McKenna has been getting a lot of notice recently after his time at Ipswich Town came to a close after last season. Sorry, I'm thinking Luton Town. Sorry, Kieran McKenna is still at Ipswich, but Ipswich manager since 2021, Kieran McKenna. He's been linked with a few jobs. Right now, he is at 3-1. Your even money dude, Ange Postecoglou. Right now, according to TalkSport Bet, even money that it would be Ange Postecoglou to Celtic, even after 39 days at Forest, which was a mistake. But Ange Postecoglou right now is even money guy when it comes to what's going to go down with Celtic, according to our friends at TalkSport Bet. Postecoglou, Kieran McKenna from Ipswich, Sean Maloney, the current caretaker assistant, Martin O'Neill, the current caretaker, who says he's only there temporarily, Shetel Knutson, Edin Terzic, and Robbie Keane. Robbie Keane's an interesting one from Ferencvaros, like I said, with our buddy Stephen Glass out there at Ferencvaros. So it would be an interesting turn if Robbie Keane, who's currently 7th, would be upgraded to number 1 on the board. So that's the rundown of everything Celtic this morning and the chaos that's attached. Remember what we were talking about where we said that one dude on the board was like, you know what? I'm going to run him over, and I'm going to run him back, and I'm going to run him over again. That's what the statement from the board was about Brendan Rodgers. And now I wonder where Brendan Rodgers would go and how long he would wait. Or is he just going to sit there and try to get something back in the English pyramid and figure it out that way? We'll see. But that's the rundown currently of everything Celtic. And I feel like I need some kind of soap opera music underneath, with everything going on there. All right, let's take the tour and let you know what else is going on today, what else we need to know about, all the news, all the things. And so you've got, yes, we mentioned, yes. You got that. WSL 2, just to kind of keep an eye on things all around the world. Women's Super League 2, Super League. The Guardian, get this. Newcastle women charged by FA with 6 illegal approaches to Sunderland players. The case is going to be heard by an independent regulatory commission, and the sacking of the Newcastle manager is unrelated to those charges. Newcastle United women charged with misconduct by the Football Association after allegedly making illegal approaches to 6 junior players contracted to their second-tier rival Sunderland. You just kind of wander over to. It's like, hey, you want to play? You want to play at Newcastle? But I'm with Sunderland. You want to play with Newcastle? Case is now going to be heard by an independent regulatory commission. Newcastle potentially facing a heavy fine if found guilty. FA has stated allegations involve Isla Burden-Watson, Isla Hepburn, Josie Dobson, Lily Williamson, Molly Frood, and Sophia Clark. In each case, it is claimed Newcastle breached the governing body's transfer rules because they, quote, did not give to the club secretary of Sunderland AFC 7 days written notice of its intention to approach the player. I guess they just kind of wandered up to him and said to us, hey, you want to come play Newcastle? And you're supposed to kind of go to Sunderland and go, well, hey, we'd like to see if these 6 players would be interested. What's it to you? What's good for you? But they didn't do that. And apparently they're all under 16s. 2 of the players believed to have joined Newcastle's youth system, and they were given until 6 p.m. back on the 17th of September to respond, and it is understood, according to The Guardian, they've suggested that the matter relates to an administrative misunderstanding. Okay, so you've allegedly approached 6 players about coming to play for your team, but you didn't talk to the team front office that you were trying to get them from, and it's an administrative misunderstanding. I'd like to know how that is an alleged administrative misunderstanding. Oh, we thought we could talk to them directly, but they're under contract to us. Oh, sorry. Last Monday, Newcastle sacked Becky Langley, announcing that just as Jose Mourinho was about to address the media the night before the men's team faced Benfica. Langley's dismissal unrelated to the FA, all about disappointing on-field performance. In 6 years in charge, Langley presided over 2 promotions, lifting them from the 4th tier to WSL 2, where they are 9th with 6 points from 6. They do have an interim charge. Sunderland are 5th, 9 points from 6, and they have promotion ambitions as well, once again trying to reach the top tier sooner rather than later. In July, Sunderland lost their highly rated keeper Claudia Moan to Newcastle, second-tier Women's Player of the Year, only giving up 18 goals in 22 appearances. There is no suggestion of an illegal approach surrounding her transfer. So, like I said, just keep an eye on that. And we also have a U17 World Cup that we have to get into. We didn't even really get into the discussion about Lamine Yamal and what happened with him and Vinicius Jr. and El Clasico, and it was chaos for those of you that watched it. And you had Vinicius Jr., who was taken off, and he wasn't happy about it. Then when the teams get together for a coming to after the match, Vinicius Jr., who's in his Adidas flip-flops, goes out onto the field, and he's starting to point fingers, and he's pointing fingers at Lamine Yamal, and Lamine Yamal's looking over his right shoulder going, bruh, go back to your bench. As long as I win, they can't say anything, Lamine Yamal said once. And so you had the Clasico that happened, and it was, trust me, it was all the things. For those of you that missed the Clasico, it was a hell of a match. 262nd Clasico. Yamal and Danny Carvajal come together post-match, and they do the snapping of the hand, like, you know, all your talking and all your woofing. 105 minutes, 38 shots, 3 goals, 3 more disallowed. Boy, did VAR really have a day. They really had a day. Thibaut Courtois was accepting an invitation to continue the melee down the tunnel. Players everywhere, in and out of sight, police pulling people apart. Vinicius being held back. Vinicius telling Lamine Yamal he talks too much. Rafinha running to stop Rudiger. Tchouameni says, it was like when we were young. 3-2. Madrid definitely needed it. Kylian Mbappe is ridiculous, and it was reinforced in that particular match. So it was completely and totally out of control. Barcelona had no Joan Garcia, no Gavi, no Dani Olmo, no Lewandowski, no Andreas Christensen, Rafinha, Jules Koundé, Lamine Yamal not fully fit, 5 players who hadn't started a league match, 2 more who started only once, 2 17-year-olds, 4 18-year-olds, and 2 who were 19. Ronald Araujo in the middle of it all. Manager was missing. Hansi Flick was suspended, stuck at a radio cabin. Marcus Sorg has been on the touchline 3 times. He's 0-3. But absolute chaos involving El Clasico, and it was the traditional fun watch that it always is. I don't know if you saw this. There is an interview that's coming up on NBC Nightly News. And it was with Tom Yamas, their new anchor for the nightly news program. It was at the Erector set. And in the interview, Messi was asked if he felt soccer could become as popular in the United States as the other American sports. Messi said he thinks the sport can get there, but clubs need to have more freedom first. Quote, every team should have the opportunity to bring in players and sign whoever each team wants without limitations or rules for players to bring them in. I don't think that today all teams in the U.S., all clubs, have the power to do that. And I think that if they were given the freedom, many more important players would come and help the growth of the United States. So that's what Lionel Messi says. Lionel Messi says pull the governor out of the golf cart, pull the T out of the engine, and just go ahead and let everybody run. Like we've seen in other sports here in the country, you would have those owners that if they were to follow, if Major League Soccer were to follow what Lionel Messi is asking, you would have the haves and the have-nots. You would certainly do that. It would be a question as to level of investment by those that don't want to match say, a Messi and Friends or an Arthur Blank or an LAFC or a Toronto FC, those that have the deep pockets anyway. So Lionel Messi saying, go ahead, open the doors. That is a bit of a Pandora's box at times, I would think, because like I said, you'll have the teams that will be like the Pittsburgh Pirates, and you will have the teams that will want to be like those that we know that would be more than happy to add a fourth DP and all that kind of stuff, and then it would turn itself into a bidding war. But then the question is, if you do something like that, are you making MLS better by doing it? MLS in its collective framework has gotten to this point. Yes, there are some parts of the framework that I'm sure we would sit there and go, well, this needs to change and change and change and change. I think adding a fourth DP is something that you need to do. I think that if you did a salary cap, you've got to have a ceiling and you've got to have a floor to make sure that teams spend at least that minimum amount, because you will have teams like, as of right now, if we sat there and we said, okay, who's not spending a whole lot of money? DC, short of Benteke maybe. And maybe a Montreal, but they were bringing in players. So, I mean, that would be the question. If you decided to just open the doors and everybody out of the barn, what would it look like? And would it be as chaotic and as competitive as it is currently, considering what we saw at the Eastern Conference, if the rules were different? I think that's the million-dollar question that's attached to all of this. So you have the 3DP spots that only count against the cap at 743, 750. We mentioned the buy downs and all those things. Messi also said he does intend to play in the 26 World Cup with Argentina. Quote, I'd like to be there to be well and be an important part of helping my national team if I'm there. Going to assess it on a day-to-day basis when I start preseason next year with Inter, as he called it, and see if I can really be 100%, if I can be useful to the group, the national team, and then make a decision. Dude, you're going to be in it. Come on. You're going to be there. They're going to manage your minutes, and you're going to be there. Trust me, you're going to be there. We talked about this a bit last night on Soccer Over There. For those of you that missed it, in Turkey, I don't know if you I don't know if in Turkey, I don't know if you saw this story or not, but apparently the Turkish Football Federation has found hundreds of referees have betting accounts. 571 referees, and this is from Reuters, 571 refs in pro leagues found to have open accounts. 371 of the 571 in pro leagues have found, so literally 37 out of 57, so 20 over, so almost 2/3 of the refs in the pro leagues in Turkey have betting accounts. And 152, or basically half, almost half, found to actively be placing bets. So you have 371 refs, 2/3 or 60% of the refs in Turkey have betting accounts. Of that group, 15 out of 37, so, 30%? 30% of them found to be actively placing bets. 15 top-level assistants, 7 top-level referees, 36 classified referees, 94 classified assistants. Some referees had placed a staggering number of bets. One referee, and I don't know how you do this, especially if you're working. One ref bet 18,227 times. 18,227. One dude. How do you do that? How do you even do that? So let's just say, all right. So the top flight in the Turkish league, which I imagine is where most of these bets are placed. Well, let's just say, if you're in the Super League in Turkey, and you're playing a 34-game schedule, so it's an 18-team league. So you're basically playing 34 matches. I imagine you're not playing 17. You're playing 34. So if you had a 34-match schedule, and you are betting 18,227 times. I've got my calculator out. 18,227. Provided I could get this to work. So you're not going to do it that way. I have to do it this way manually? That's kind of silly. Okay. So, all right. So 18,227 divided by 34. So 34 match schedule for each team. You're basically taking each team and betting on them in theory, if my math is correct, 268 times during a schedule. If you're sitting there and you're going, yeah, I'm going to bet on each team the equal number of times. You're betting on each team in the Turkish Super League 268 times in a season. If I've done that correctly. So 268 times each year, you would be betting on Antalyaspor to do something. 268 times, you would be betting on what's going on in Besiktas. You would be betting on Samsunspor for 268 different times. Jinkler Birligi, you'd be betting on them 268 times. Like I said, just if you just average it out and hash it out. But 18,227 bets by one dude. 42 refs bet on more than 1,000 football matches each. And others were found to have placed bets only once. So, first off, I'd love to know how you bet 18,227 times on matches, and I imagine it's on multiple levels. 42 refs bet on more than 1,000 matches each. So basically, you would take each team and bet on them 4 times and doing something during the season in the Super League. Under Article 57 of the Disciplinary Code, those found guilty of betting on football matches face bans ranging from 3 months to a year from officiating or football-related activities. I'm still trying to figure out how you bet 18,227 times at once, legitimately. 18,227 times. That is unheard of to me. It's like prop bet, bang, 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 bang. That is crazy to me that you have that kind of that kind of an idea available to you. And by the end of it all, it's 18,227 bets. That's nuts. Absolutely nuts. Jason Stevens coming up around the corner. We discussed Sheffield Wednesday. We discussed administration. We discussed John Textor and MCOs and mafia interest and Serie B and Serie C in Italy. All the things coming up in just a little bit. Trying to see if I've missed any other stories that have come out this morning. And let's see. So, shocking no one, Vinicius Jr. and Xabi's relations were strained after El Clasico. And Toni Kroos defended Vinicius Jr.'s reaction to him being subbed. So you have that. We mentioned the NWSL. The Current and the San Diego Wave are going to play in the World Sevens football tournament, taking place December 5th through 7th at Fort Lauderdale United FC's home. They join AFC Toronto, Club America, Tigres Femenil, Club de Brazil's Flamengo, and Colombia's Deportivo Cali Femenino. 2 15-minute halves, group and knockout stage, largest prize pool in the women's game. So you're going to have Current and Wave playing in the $5 million tournament in Fort Lauderdale the first week of December. So it's cool that they've decided to include those two into the whole thing. Interesting that it's going to be held in Fort Lauderdale, but very, very cool. Really quickly, let me see if I have missed anything else before we go and catch up with Jason. Let's go what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Obviously, we've got the one match in Major League Soccer tonight. We've got BNBN and Español. Copa Sudamericana tonight. Atletico Mineiro and Independiente del Valle at 8:30. You can catch that. All the BNs, TIC, Nuestro Telesitio for the fans, TVV, Gold TV with our buddy Nino Torres at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. You can watch Tigo Sports, CATV, all the things. You can get all your AFCON. They have the Polish league now with BN because you've got Ligue 1, Ligue 2, the French competitions, everything in Africa and the Middle East and North Africa is available on all the BNs. And you can get that on anything and everything at fanatisfntz.co/soccer down here. Helps them out, helps us out, helps you out to add to all the things that you watch on a daily basis. ESPN Deportes has German Cup at 1:30, Eintracht Frankfurt and Borussia Dortmund. Serie A's on Fox Deportes at 1:30 with Lecce and Napoli. And German Cup, 4 matches, 2 at 1:20, 2 at 3:30. The Copa del Rey is up today as well on the Plus. 2 matches at 2 o'clock, 4 matches at 3 o'clock, and that is off and running Paramount Plus. Once again, you have the 2 matches in Serie A. Atalanta and Milan is at 3:45. You have the Gummy Bear Cup today, 3:45 and 4 o'clock on Paramount Plus. And this is for the true individual that has a lot going on or nothing going on, and you want to have something going on in the room. Today, it is Grimsby Town hosting Brentford. Brentford a -263. Wycombe Wanderers hosting Fulham. Fulham's a -164. Wrexham and Cardiff, the 2 Wales sides going at it against each other. They don't hate each other. But Wrexham favored at a +127. 90-minute draws a +231. Cardiff is a +210. 5 matches tomorrow. Arsenal a big favorite. Liverpool favored against Crystal Palace. Swansea a big dog hosting Manchester City. Wolves as a dog hosting Chelsea. And Newcastle is favored hosting Spurs at a -137. But that's what you got today in Gummy Bear Cup. And we actually have a League 2 matchup with Accrington Stanley and Tranmere Rovers at 3:45. U17 World Cup and CONMEBOL Nations League are going on today as well. The USA-Netherlands match is at 3 o'clock. That's on FS2. USA has stormed their way into this particular part of the tournament. Italy-Nigeria is at 11:30 on FS2. USA and Netherlands is at 3 o'clock on FS2. So that's the U17 World Cup. USA's been putting up a lot of big numbers so far. They got the Netherlands at 3. CONMEBOL Nations League, Uruguay-Argentina, Femenil at 5, Ecuador-Colombia at 7. Tuda NA is simulcasting both of those matches as well. Golazo Network has UEFA Women's Nations League, Sweden and Spain at 2, France and Germany at 4:10. Paramount Plus simulcasting both of those. While we're talking promos, it is, once again, you can get our jersey at Olive & York, and it is the floppy-collared blue jersey that has Kaiser Permanente across the front. We couldn't do anything without our friends at Kaiser Permanente. You can get that, and it helps out our Soccer for Good campaign here in 2025. Also on the board, you can get it personalized on the back. It can either be in a light blue, Carolina blue, whatever shade of blue you wish, the sky blue on the back, or you can go white. Consult with Alex and Abby to figure out which one fits for you. I think Abby has one of each. You can be a Fanatico for $10. You can go through our Chant app, group.chant.fan/soccer down here /join. You can be a Fanatico and have a whole lot of cool discounts afforded to you. And it can be one of those things that you can really, you can really do a lot of good. It helps out our Soccer for Good campaign, but there are a lot of different places that you can that you can take advantage of, honestly. So here's the discounts that you can get right now, and they keep adding places and places and places. A lot of them are breweries that are north of the Nat line. So current partners, once again, listed under the membership card in the Chant app. And so the partners that we have right now, Putt Shack in Midtown Atlanta, they're new. You can get 20% off mini golf for any private event. Rev Coffee Roasters in Smyrna, that's new. Brass Tap in Marietta, Moxie Hotel Midtown, 20% off hotel food and beverage. South Main in Watkinsville, Schoolhouse in Marietta, Hard Cider in Marietta, half off a flight, limit 1 per visit. Elixir in Beaufort and Monroe, Round Trip in Marietta, Social Fox in Norcross, Keys to Flavor Catering, 15% off your first catered event in Sugar Hill. Fado Midtown, 10% off food tabs. O'Sullivan in Decatur, $5 select beers, $10 off your food bill, $10 off of merch, 10% off merch. Lloyd's, 20% off select Atlanta United gear. Finished Goods Brew Works, $1 off select beers. For Winder, Slow Pour in Lawrenceville, same thing. Same thing at Outrun and Stone Mountain. Tires Plus in Alpharetta. Get this. Old Milton Parkway location, $25 off alignment services, $25 off oil changes, $50 off 4 tires. Wild Leap, downtown in Ted Turner. It is $1 off the Chance IPA local Gold Blonde Ale. Dad's Garage, $2 off beer and wine with a paid ticket, limit 2 per visit. Chateau Arenal in San Ramon, El Castillo, San Ramon, Costa Rica. Chateau Arenal. You want to go to Costa Rica? Go to Chateau Arenal. You're a Fanatico. You get a discount. You get a discount code. So if you want to go down and watch you want to go watch Alajuelense or Herediano or the national team or Saprissa, and you want to stay at Chateau Arenal, you can do it as a Fanatico. You get a discount code. Battle and Brew, Sandy Springs, and the Battery as well. But we're adding more as we go, and it's really cool that that is being added as a part of our dossier as well. You can go to our friends at Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co., and there you get the Soccer is Just Better in Atlanta gear. And once again, as a part of our Soccer for Good campaign, what you can do there is you buy the gear, and it is either red or black, gold embossed lettering, the SDH Network logo on one cuff, the Grady Baby logo on the other cuff, and it's T-shirts and sweatshirts. You buy it. It helps out middle school soccer programs attached to the Atlanta public school system. Very, very cool stuff there with our Soccer for Good campaign. Also, you can go to soccerdownhere.net. You can get all of our gear. You can get all the SDH gear with the new logo. And I also forgot, the Marshall Islands scarves are here, version 2.0. If you're interested in getting that, it's $25 to me. You can get it to me, and I'll ship it to you. Or if I meet you in person, I can give it to you that way. That goes to help keep the lights on with the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. So version 2, where is it? It is right there. Yeah, right there. That's version 2. That's what's different from version 1 is that the new logo, as I'm trying to do things mirrored over my shoulder, the new logo exists. The new SDH logo is a part of the Marshall Islands scarf, and so that helps keep the lights on with our friends at the Marshall Islands as they try and continue to grow their program. And we can't wait for next year when they come back to Arkansas and have the Outrigger Challenge Cup again, version 2.0. So very, very cool stuff there. And yeah, Alex, Scott, the Cobb County guy, without question. Okay, I think we got caught up. I'll tour and see if I've missed anything coming up in a bit. But it's that time where we catch up with our friend Jason Stevens. This time around, we ask about MCOs. That's part of our multi-club operations organizational model master's class. And because of what happened with John Textor and the story that we talked about yesterday, John Textor becomes a topic this week. Also, we all discuss what's going on with the Sheffield Wednesday situation. We explain what administration is, and should we expect something happening in the next 28 days? And if it doesn't, then what? And we also get into the mafias, or story out of Reuters, where Serie B and Serie C, they're looking at certain clubs, one of them Crotone, and their involvement to alleged mafia ties. And so we get into that and all the other things that are going on overseas as our learning about the economics of soccer continues. Here's our friend Jason Stevens to let us know what's going on with multi-club ownership, multi-club organization, John Textor, Sheffield Wednesday, Choice D, all the above. Welcome back, my friend. It is great to see you first and foremost. And so we spend a couple of weeks apart, and there's a couple of things we need to talk about and catch up on. Yeah.
No, good to be back. Good to be back. Let's get going.
All right. So one of the things that obviously 2 of the topics that I had in my hip pocket we agreed on. So it's like 2 on my end and 2 on your end, and you brought all 4. So we were in agreement for a bit. Sheffield Wednesday situation. And I guess this is administration for dummies. That particular section, because right now Defon Chansiri has basically said, enough is enough, and he has now put them in administration. It is an automatic 12-point deduction. They're at the bottom of the championship, but just because you're in administration doesn't mean that everything is solved. You still have bills to pay. You still have deadlines you still have to meet. There's a 28-day window. Please, if you would, sir, break down administration for dummies and what the steps are here for Sheffield Wednesday, even though Defon Chansiri has apparently had enough of the whole thing.
Yeah, so basically the administration is a mediator, right? But somebody that comes in and basically pays the bills, but somebody will come in and strip back all the costs. So they will pay the bills, the minimum amount of bills. So they will make cutbacks wherever they can, because the administrators are like an independent financial company. They don't want to splash the cash. They want to streamline it as much as they can. And then in the process, they're trying to find a new buyer for the club. So, Sheffield Wednesday have had some bids on the table, and the owner has refused to accept them. So now it's got to the point where obviously he can't get to paying the bills, and he would rather the club go into administration than take the offers that are on the table. Now, that doesn't mean to say that it gets sold for any less or for any more, because there'll be some T's and C's that will be outlined. But ultimately, the administrator is a body that will come in. They will make decisions now on the overall management. They will be the ones picking up the wage bill and running operational costs, and they will be the ones that will be mediating a new buyer. And then, Sheffield Wednesday's future. I mean, don't get me wrong. When somebody goes into administration, it's never 100% safe, because you still got to agree on the selling rights, right? So there is a risk that it just goes into liquidation on the back of that, and then the club will be out of the league, etc., and have to basically be a Phoenix club, rebirth itself. But we don't know which way he's going to be shaping this potential sell. Now, we know that DeJohnny owns the stadium rights, and obviously we know he owns the team rights. So there's still a bit of a way to go. Now, you say 28 days. Now, yes, traditionally it's 28 days for an administrator, but they can apply for it to be extended if they want to. We've seen that in previous cases with Derby County, etc., etc. If there's interested buyers that come to the table and they're keen, then it's a negotiation. So that could take as long as it takes, really. But Sheffield Wednesday is a big brand. It's a big brand. It's got a huge consumer base. So I can't see there being short of a few interested parties. Now the problem is that it needs so much innovation. It needs so much investment. The stadium is run down. The squad is at its bare minimum, and obviously there's debt associated to it. So, you're coming in to buy that club. You're going to be having to part with probably £500 million if you factor in a new stadium, and then get the squad up to being competitive level, and then clear the debts. And obviously the other thing I haven't included is the training ground. The training ground is completely run down as well. So it is a complete new project. But on the same time, it's got so many attractive parts to it that it really will be an attractive proposition for somebody. And if I was to say to you, which clubs belong in the top league because of their history, because of their metrics, fan base, etc., then Sheffield Wednesday would be in that conversation. It's got so much history, etc. So I think this could be a turning point for the better. There's no doubt about it, but there's still a few steps to go backwards first.
Topic number 2, and it was a topic that on Monday morning's show we spent a good 20 minutes on. And I know it will surprise you, tongue firmly planted in cheek, that it was about Atlanta United's best friend, John Textor, and the new news that is new reports that are associated with him, where he basically said, tell you what, and he walks into an imaginary room, has a conversation with Fosun, the owner of Wolves, and is like, tell you what, I want to buy you. We haven't talked about this at all. I'm walking in the door. I want it to be cash and shares of like 150 and 250 for like 400 million or so. And Fosun didn't take too kindly to that, because they would have liked to have, maybe had a conversation first. And now they want to seek outside investment to help them out. John Textor seems to be, hell-bent on having this one, now added to the portfolio, where we have all these discussions that Matt Slater had at The Athletic about Eagle 2.0. and going public and stock exchanges and stuff, and all of this going on while apparently he now, and this is stuff that we've have cycled through in the past, Eagles' main lender, Ares Management, according to Matt Slater, has been trying to draw back $425 million US that it loaned to Textor in 2022 to buy Lyon. He's given Ares most of the proceeds from his sale of his Palace shares, forced to accept the imposition of an independent director at Eagle to oversee Ares' interests elsewhere in the group. That director stepped down, replaced by another insolvency expert. Aries and Textor are discussing whether it's best for them to divorce. Perhaps Textor keeps Botafogo, Aries gets Lyon. Textor has another disagreement with Iconic. And last week in Florida, it was decided that the judge in Florida said, not my purview. That's not my geography. It's got to be done in England. So $75 million with Iconic and Eagle, and it's now in England. Can you sort this out, or is it sort outable?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, look, media like to create a narrative which is a lot worse than what it is. So going back to the Aries one, yes, there's a significant amount of money that Aries have given Eagle Football Holdings, especially for the acquisition of Lyon, as you highlighted. But, in return for that 400 million, the breakdown of the ownership there is only roughly about 6% that they've got, if that. So in theory, out of the whole Eagle Football Holdings ownership breakdown, it's very, very hard for them to force a sell, because Eagle Football Holdings is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got it in front of me. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5. Sorry, 15, 16, 17. Here I'm going. 20 different organisations, right? And Aries management has got 5 or 6, actually. 6 of those companies in there. But if you add its total stake, it's less than 5.3%. Now, the biggest stakeholders are Iconic Sports, which has got one of its lawsuits out with them. And then you've got Michel Kang, who's got another 6%. And then you've got lots of other investors. And another significant investor is Elmwood Eagle. Now, these guys have a lot of voting power. And it's John Textor and them, that they seem to be quite solid. And then the other one, which has got like 4 or 5 companies in this Eagle Holdings, is Monroe Capital. Okay, so 2 companies there that between them have about 11% of the voting rights. And if you put that with John Textor's 65%, then they've got 76 together. And going back to Aries management, they've actually agreed to defer all payments for another year. So that's been settled. They're happy to lay back for another 12 months. So appreciate what Matt's saying, but he's just, a little bit off there in the fact that could they hold it over to Lyon? Well, 12 months down the line, they could. If John Textor doesn't refinance, then there could be all sorts of conversations. But what John Textor's trying to do is stay relevant, right? He's trying to stay relevant. He knows that Wolves are looking for investment. And yes, they've been open and sort of suggested that they're up to giving away 49%. Now, I tried to buy their women's team last year, and we was offered 49%, but we wanted 51%, and they weren't interested in that in any shape or form. So I know that they are looking for that investment. But also, I mean, if you read that same article, Matt will also say that they've been in discussions with 5 or 6 other championship clubs as well. So he needs an English club because he wants to float it, right? He wants to fly Eagle Football Holdings 2.0. Now, people are saying to me, where's he getting the money from? Well, Marinakis is definitely operating in the shadows with him. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's being funded with that, because obviously part of the 2.0 launch was with the Marinakis group as well. They want a South American club, i.e. Brazil, Botafogo. Botafogo wants some clubs in Europe to be able to bring the Brazilian players over, and obviously Marinakis has got the Victoria group as well. And then ideally you want a championship club to be able to feed those players into, to allow them time to grow. And then, obviously it's cheaper to buy a championship club than it is to buy a £400 million stake in a Premier League club. And you're going to have a lot of change out of that. So, yes, these conversations are happening. I think John's trying to stay relevant in the media. He's trying to build up some momentum from his stakeholders to say, look, I'm still active. I'm still looking for clubs in England. Yes, we put in a bid for Wolves, but was it official, or was it just media leaking something that wasn't official? Has it paid Wolves off? Yes, because it wasn't through the official channels. But Wolves are looking for investment, right? So that's no secret there. There's more in this one, John. There's more in that one. And John Textor's not going away, right?
Okay. And, it's I know that you in the past have mentioned Fubo TV and their the other elements of the portfolio of John Textor, which mean that people are attracted to continue to have business with a gentleman like that. So taking that as that recent example, and what we've always tried to say after the conversations with you, when you see a situation like this, look at the entire portfolio of an individual. Don't just look at the sports and entertainment element of this. Find out what else is going on with that individual and see where there might be interest and longer-term investment, and playing a long game would help out that investor that wants to come to the money in the short term that would be headed towards sports.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these guys, they know how to run business. So I'm not saying they know how to run sports organisations, but these guys know how to run business. They're billionaires for a reason. There's two sayings. You don't become a billionaire without one, knowing what you're doing. And then the other saying is you don't become a billionaire without doing some crooked work in the meantime. So, John Textor's ticking all those boxes at the moment, right? He's showing his creativity and he's showing that he knows how to navigate some shortcomings as well. So fair play to him.
Topic number 3 is now when you had these 3 terms together in a sentence, I was instantly like Spidey senses were going, what? You had in the same sentence MCO, infiltration, and mafia all in the same sentence. That I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing when all 3 of those are in the same sentence. What is going on here?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't think it is much of a surprise that the mafia have been connected to Italian football clubs, right? They use it as a process to laundering money, to access money, etc. But it was actually come to our attention that what we have seen is the judicial administration in Italy. Now they've now taken control of Bear Holdings, but it's a club they've actually taken control of, which is SS Juve Stabia, which play in Serie B, but it's also part of Bear Holdings. Now, that club, Stabia, is 52% owned by Bear Holdings, and that's led Daniel J. McCrory. And then you've got Andrea Lungella, who's 48%, but he was pretty much the primary owner until 25 when Bear Holdings acquired that 52%. Anyway, the judicial administration say that there's been long-term association with the Camorra mafia, and they found conclusive evidence that they have been controlling the match day ticketing, season tickets, catering, food and beverage concessions, stadium contracts, cleaning, security, maintenance, healthcare, protection money, and travel service. So there's a few areas they haven't. There's a few areas they haven't controlled, but pretty much they're controlling everything. So what we're suggesting is that roughly takes up to about 50% of their annual revenue, and a lot of that is going through the Camorra mafia. Now, Italians the judicial system are saying, look, this has been going on for a long term and you've played ignorance to it. We're not accusing anyone in the club here of any criminal activity, but you've just definitely turned a blind eye to this and you haven't done anything about it. Now, you could appreciate they probably haven't done anything about it. We're not going to leave any turn. So the judicial department have come in and they've taken control of the club now, and they're going to be running the operations side, so i.e. trying to bring in new contractors. But I don't think that's going to be as easy as it sounds, because there's no doubt the mafia will be controlling its rivals or its local areas in the meantime as well. But looking into this a little bit further, I've done a little article on this on LinkedIn, and this is the 3rd club this year that the judicial administration team has possessed. And there's another club in Serie C, which is Crotone, obviously not pronounced the correct way here, but they've been suggested that they've been infiltrated by the Calabrian mafia for 10 years now, since 2015. And then you've got Foggia Calcio 1920, which is also another Serie C club, and they've been infiltrated by the Foggia mafia, and that's basically intimidation and extortion from around 20 businesses associated to the football club. And if we look back at this, look, Inter Milan, AC Milan have had connections with mafia. Palmero have had connections with the mafia. They're not the only ones. There's probably a whole list of clubs, etc., that go on. But the point of all of this is how much money has been taken from the football Italian ecosystem just because of organised crime. And, I don't want to leave this and make this an Italian problem, because this article I put on LinkedIn, and actually some people have actually responded to this and said, look, this is just not an Italian thing. This actually happens in Brazil. This actually happens in Portugal. This actually happens in Eastern European. And because organised crime is a global thing, right? So, and they use clubs, multi-club ownership models as a way of laundering money. So, last year I was asked to do a session with Interpol, right? Looking at how these organised crimes can use multi-club ownership models as a way of filtering that money, with limited detection. So it's definitely a vehicle for them. But yeah, definitely come to me. But at the same time, I just want to pick this up. Our holdings are not in it. I do believe that they know something more than what they're letting on, because actually there was a couple of weeks ago, right, that they actually changed the way that their company was structured. I'll just get out the exact information here, because I want to make sure. So they took a business pivot, right? So they changed their sports MCO company from a Solana blockchain, changing its ticker from a Brea to an SLMT in September 25. And this is like not a coincidence, right? They knew that this was coming, and they anticipated bigger problems in their portfolio. So yes, they took a hit on the shares, but they started to climb back up now using a different market. But ultimately, though, they're going to leave themselves open to further investigations from NASDAQ, where their listing is listed to, and potentially some of those key individuals are going to be scrutinised even further. But yeah, it's interesting. That's all I can say on that at the moment.
Yeah. Yes. So looking at Brera, holding company listed, courtesy of our friends at the Wikipedias. MCO focused in sports, offices in Milan and Dublin, currently own 4 association football clubs and a volleyball club, traded on the NASDAQ, world's first publicly traded multi-club sports ownership group, which is, and that's as of March of 24. And it goes back to Dan McClory, and as you mentioned with them. So the clubs that they are tied to, you mentioned Brera and you mentioned Juve Stabia in the Italian pyramid. You have Brera Strumica, which is in Macedonia. You have Brera Ilic, which is in Mongolia. And you also have WFC Tveria Brera Strumica as well. So you have 2 Macedonian clubs, one that we know in the first division, another one that still apparently, I guess, just exists in name only. And then you go to Mongolia and 2 in Italy, which is that's an interesting mix. I'll just use the word interesting there.
Yeah, they've also got a volleyball club in Italy as well there as well. So they're not they're quite a multi-sports organisation as such. And what they have done is they've bought these lower level clubs and they've changed the names, etc., to unify the branding, etc. But as I said, Stadia is maintained its. In terms of its identity, it's maintained that identity separate from the branding, but that's because obviously they don't own 100% of the club, and obviously we have seen a lot of the European clubs, they're very protective of their image, branding, etc. So I understand that, but the point is here, those countries are not necessarily have rigid checks, right? So if they're not having those regular checks and they're not being scrutinised by wider governing bodies, then it's probably a lot easier to filter money through, carry money through, whatever ways they want to do. What I'd be interested in is looking at the movement of players within there, etc. Looking at the average gate receipt, stadium tickets, to see if they're actually genuine, because that's one way that you can fabricate money. Make out that you sold 10,000 season tickets, but you're only averaging 2,500, and then questions a mark of where the other 7,500. But there are sort of tactics that any club can sort of navigate. We've seen it in the Premier League, right? Because in the Premier League, for example, I'm not getting off track here, but they have contracts, so they have to have high stadium utilisation, so it's as high as like 96, 98%. Now, if clubs don't have that, they have to prove that they've sold those tickets for that day, because you can't guarantee that everyone turns up. So what a lot of the owners do is that they buy the missing seats. So people on that day, they buy the missing seats because they need to make sure match day revenue is at its highest in order for them to meet PSR rules, right? So that's a tactic that can be used and manipulated in other ways. So I wouldn't be surprised if mafia, organised crime is using that tactic to say, look, we've actually got 10,000 season ticket holders, but not everyone turns up every week. That's just life, However, we've got this money coming through the system. So there's nothing that organisations can do about that,
Topic last, and it has to do with alphabet soup and the renaming of things. And I thought it was interesting. It's like, okay, we're going to call ourselves I think they're heading to ECA now. That's the new one, right? They went from one name and they're now the ECA. Is that the right direction on that one?
Yeah, ECA was the European Club Association, which was rebranded in I think 2008. Around that time, they was the G14, like they representation of the wealthiest clubs in Europe. But they've just rebranded now to I think it's like the European Football Clubs Association, because look, what the ECA were, there was a representation of the world's elite clubs, but it was like a closed shop in terms of its governance. Now, if you were rich and your club earned so much money, then you was entitled to Tier 1, and Tier 1 gave you voting rights. And then what we saw was that the lesser clubs, they was invited to subscribe, but they never had any voting rights. And then we saw another union form last year, which was like a Union of European Clubs. And it was for the voice for the smaller clubs, basically. And it was like they were saying one vote, one membership, etc. And that grew quickly over time. And then the ECA saw, actually, we need to restructure what we're doing here, because if we don't, we're going to probably lose our power. Now, the ECA won't lose its power because, obviously, one, it's represented by the wealthiest clubs, and we know that money talks. But what they did do is they changed their membership quite quickly, and now they've opened it up to all the clubs in the top leagues across the 55 European nations. And now there's roughly 800 members in there, and it's probably the brainchild of Khalifa, actually, the PSG stroke current ECA president. Probably done himself the world of good for the next FIFA presidency. I think he's going to be a strong candidate for that. But politically, what does this mean? Well, it still means that ECA controls the commercial operations of European football. They will have a big say in what that looks like at FIFA, on the global tournaments and any new tournaments that are up and coming. But what they are now is a bit more reflective of the European landscape rather than just the rich clubs. So there's a modern adjustment that was needed. But I'm not too sure it's going to have much of a sway in terms of the way it's reflected, because the big clubs are always going to control football, right? Under the table, they do. It's just, there's one thing that happens on the shop floor, but we're not privy to is what those conversations are behind closed doors or messages that are exchanged under the table. And we know, like, for example, in England, Liverpool, Man United control football, and what the rest do is what they want them to do, and people will say, well, that's a bit of a harsh thing to say, but no, it is. It's just the way football has been for many years, right? And people just have to accept that. I say accept it, but it's just the way it is. It's just the way football is. Certain clubs control it. Real Madrid control Spanish football. If they want something to happen, they have a word with the royal family, who are their prime backers, and law changes. It's just,
Strange how that works. Absolutely. Great to see you, my friend. As always, I love it when we can educate everyone on this side of the Atlantic about what's going on the other side of the Atlantic and how it impacts both sides. As we're growing the game here, and it's established overseas, and now economics and Vulcan chess and trying to figure things out in 3 dimensions. It's always great to see you, my friend. Thanks again. We'll do this again next week, and we'll continue the discussions and getting smart when it comes to MCOs and everything going on and how it all interlinks. Great to see you, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
And that is Jason Stevens and our rundown of everything that is going on through the economics of soccer. A couple of things that I thought were interesting in that conversation, and it is our number one bypass of all of this. Follow the money. And when you have a John Textor-like situation, and he mentions Evangelinas Marinakis, and he mentions the pipeline to South America and to Portugal, and trying to find teams that are there in Europe that you can have your pipeline with, if it's, say, an EFL Championship club, so you can have Eagle 2.0 work in a way where you're shuttling players from South America to the second division in England, and then work it through the Eagle holdings there in Europe. Keep an eye on that. Like I said, follow the money. But I thought the Evangelinas Marinakis comment was something to hang your hat on. And also, when you see relationships involving Iconic and Aries and Textor, keep an eye on, and Michelle Kang, follow the idea of where else those businesses are engaging, to figure out, okay, why is someone still even picking up the phone when you have a relationship with someone? Follow the other parts of the business aspects that individual may have. And I have, as I told you, I said, I've reached out to Mr. Textor again on Instagram. Before we go, let me see if he has done anything that I would have noticed, because I DM'd him, and let's see. So messaging, it is not there. And so I have, so I reached out to John Textor, no response. We've also reached out to Sheffield Wednesday Supporters Trust and a couple of reporters overseas to try and get the lay of the land when it comes to Sheffield Wednesday and find out what's going on there, and try and continue to follow up with that as that story continues to grow. And obviously, when we get someone booked on the show, then we'll talk about everything Sheffield Wednesday with those folks. But yeah, we are efforting the Sheffield Wednesday side of the story, and when we can grab someone and have them on, we will grab them and have them on. So that is the latest there. Also, this morning, just coming out, it is Roman Celentano winning 2025 Save of the Year, the double save against Nashville at Nashville, second award in 3 seasons. And it was in the 50th minute back on March 29th. And so it's the second time in 3 years. Won it in 23 for the stoppage time save against Crew. Just the 4th keeper in MLS history to earn the honor multiple times, joining Stephen Fry, Casey Keller, and Nick Raimondo with 3. Last year it was Martin Paz against LAG. Before 2023, it was Gillespie, Fry, Eloy Room, Nick Raimondo, Stephen Fry, Brad Gazan in 2017. Joe Bendick in Orlando, Adam Quarazzi for Portland, Luis Robles, Nick Raimondo twice, Casey Keller 2 times, and Pat Onstad was the initial winner of the award back in 2009. But Roman Celentano wins Save of the Year for Major League Soccer. The one thing that we have not gotten into yet is the USL Championship standings and playoff matchups and all of that as they head into the postseason as well. Like I said, we are efforting Kaylor Hodges, and we can talk about the season in depth with the USL Championship. The way that it finished up, Lou City won the Eastern Conference at 73 points, 22, 1 loss in 30. How Danny Cruz is not being courted by teams in Major League Soccer or any place else is beyond me. 1 loss in 30 this year in USL Championship. It is stunning to me that Danny Cruz is not getting his door knocked on by anybody. Hey, turn Lou City into an absolute monster, and good luck. 73 points, 1 loss in 30 matches. Charleston second at 62, and then the chaos began trying to find out who was going to be in the playoffs and who wasn't. Everybody kind of backed into their slots. North Carolina is your 3 at 45. Pittsburgh, your 44. They had same number of points. And the head-to-head, Pittsburgh over Hartford, and the number of wins, Hartford had more wins, Pittsburgh had head-to-head. So Pittsburgh's your 4, Hartford's your 5, Loudoun is your 6. They lost 3 of 4 going into the playoffs. It's not looking too good going up against North Carolina. Rhode Island is your 7, so the next time Michael Parkhurst comes on, we get to talk to him about the postseason again. Detroit City at 37 points. They only had 2 points in their last 3 matches. They only had 1 win in their last 5, but since everybody kind of backed into the postseason, the loss by Indy 11 gave Detroit City the room that they needed. 9-11-10, Detroit City's the 8. They take on Lou City in the opening round. Indy, Tampa, the Miami FC, and Birmingham Legion wrap up the Eastern Conference and do not advance past this past weekend. Western Conference, FC Tulsa 9 points clear. They won 3 of their last 4. Sacramento, Rodrigo Lopez retiring after this season. He goes in as the 2 seed with Sacramento as your 2, New Mexico United as your 3. El Paso Locomotive finishes with a loss on decision day, but because once again everyone behind them couldn't capitalize on it as best as they could, Phoenix Rising had the chance. They only drew, so they get to 40 points. And they are in 5th. San Antonio FC is your 6. Snapped a 4-game losing streak to win on decision day to get the 6th seed and go from the 8 up to the 6. Orange County, unbeaten in their last 5, goes to the 7. Switchbacks lose on decision day, but at the end of it all, a loss by Lexington. Lexington lost 4 of 5 coming home, and they finish in 9th. Roots at 32. Benny Failhaber's contract was not renewed for Roots, so Benny Failhaber is looking for his next head coaching gig. Monterey Bay loses 2 of their last 3, and they finish in 11th. And Vegas Lights lose 3 of their last 5, 2 points in their last 5 matches. Vegas Lights do not qualify. So your matchups in the postseason for USL Championship. Let's see if we have the calendar set up yet, and we do. So Wednesday and Saturday leading into, well, it's the month of October, kid. So go all the way down to the end. Maybe if you hit playoffs, we could do that. So instead of doing that, just hit playoffs because it's the last day of the regular season. That's regular season stuff. So the field is set. Conference quarters on Saturday. On the plus, Pittsburgh and Hartford. 7 o'clock at Lynn Family on Golasso. It is Lou City and Detroit City. 7:30 at Wake Med. It is Loudoun and North Carolina FC. Everything else is on the plus on your Saturday. Tulsa at the 1OK hosting Switchbacks. 9 o'clock New Mexico United at the Lab hosting San Antonio. El Paso at 9:30 at Southwest University Park and Phoenix Rising. Sunday, Charleston hosting Rhode Island on CBS Sports Network at 2 o'clock at Patriots Point. Sacramento at 9 o'clock, the day-night doubleheader on Sunday. It is Sacramento Republic at Hard Health hosting Orange County, and that is match day number 1 in the postseason for USL Championship. So that is your rundown of everything that I think we know going on today. Come back again tomorrow, 9:05. Once again, you're looking at the Chris Henderson press conference and press availability at 9:30. Maddie and Jason coming on, if they can figure out the ins and outs and how to get a signal out, coming on before. Tyler Pilgrim joining us until about 9:50. Then if we can get Dylan Butler, we'll have Dylan Butler on to talk playoffs until about 10:30. And that's when everything should be wrapping up or wrapped up involving the Chris Henderson press opportunity. And so Maddie and Jason will join after in the 10:30 block to discuss what they heard and what Atlanta United looks to do from here when it comes to the 2026 season. And with Chris Henderson, once again, that press opportunity, 9:30 tomorrow morning. Maddie and Jason ahead of it. Tyler Pilgrim joining after that until 9:50. Then Dylan Butler, hopefully at 10. When it's over, Maddie and Jason join back in, and we'll talk about everything that happened after the press opportunity. We'll be keeping an ear out for it as well and getting some of the general thoughts as we go. So it's going to be kind of an Atlanta United morning, kind of navigating that press opportunity, and we'll see where it goes from there and what other things happen up at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. And once again, we're setting up guests for Thursday and Friday, getting everything laid out for match days 2 in the MLS playoffs. Thanks to KCD for dropping by and breaking everything down in college soccer and with the art of the penalty kick and getting that to kind of squared away when it comes to order and what you want and personality and all those kinds of things. That was a really cool discussion. And thanks to Jason Stevens for the deep dive, keeping an eye on Sheffield Wednesday, keeping an eye on John Textor, and letting us know about officials of a legal variety, keeping an eye on certain businesses in Italy, Mongolia, and Macedonia. I was about to say Madagascar. Macedonia and Mongolia and Italy and all that going forward. So thanks to all of them, and thanks to all of you for hanging out with us as you always do here for another go-round of SDH AM. Back at 9:05 tomorrow. Very, very busy day, an important day for Atlanta United here in the offseason, and we'll come back for all of it in a little less than 22 hours. Remember, U17 World Cup. U.S. is on FS2 at the bottom of the hour. The starting lineup has been announced, and let me get into that very quickly. USYNT, and we will see what the starting lineup looks like. It is Evan Osteen. It is Callie O'Neill. It is Osteen, O'Neill, Schmidt, Pearl Cecil wearing the captain's armband, Brewer, Antonucci, Torre, Lauren Malsom, who has been on fire in this tournament, Maddie DiMaria, Riley Kennedy, and Michaela Johnson going up against the Netherlands at 11:30 on FS2 as the U.S. U17 women's national team tries to continue their perfect record at the U17 World Cup in Morocco. We'll have highlights, and we'll hear about that one tomorrow as well. Very, very busy day for Atlanta United. So thanks to all of them. Thanks to all of you. And thanks for being with us every single day here at SDH AM as we break everything down for your morning load of information. Morning load of information and everything that you need to start your day here on everything involving the world of soccer. So for everybody here, to all of you there, thanks for dropping by for another round of SDH AM. It's the end of the show. That means they get to do this. Back at it again, less than 22. Mucho Platiel, play it safe. We'll see you tomorrow.